Community members' jaws dropped during tonight's presentation. The report was put together by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired by village trustees in April as an independent investigator. They sought her out to get to the bottom of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's alleged misuse of village funds. Of the revelations made tonight, we are learning that as of May 31st of this year, the village's general fund, which is used to pay the majority of village expenses, is $3.65 million in deficit. Across the village's 6 credit cards that Lightfoot has been made aware of, receipts for purchases are, quote, rarely provided, unquote. In just one day, 3 transactions were made on Amazon, one for $33,000, another for $4,700, and a third for $5,600. Another significant purchase that stands out, nearly $7,700 spent at Wayfair. And that is only scratching the surface. Community members were shocked to learn that at least 589 checks amounting to over $6 million were approved and printed but never sent to vendors. Henyard, a no-show for tonight's highly anticipated meeting, and attorneys for village trustees say she has changed the locks at Village Hall once again.
$40,000 at Amazon. What a slap in the face to everybody that reside in 60419 zip code.
I know how I felt when I started seeing these numbers. So I can imagine how all of you are feeling after all this time being in the dark. There are a number of other things we know, but we aren't ready yet. We got to verify them 20 ways from Sunday.
Here is proof for everyone to see, and even the ones who doubt us. If you don't see through this, there's nothing I can say to you. February of 2025, clean house. Clean house.
Also of note, the police department's expenditures have increased $1.6 million since fiscal year 2022. Since that time, former Deputy Chief Louis Lacey has taken home roughly $215,000 in overtime when he wasn't eligible for it. 2 other officers, Lightfoot says, made more in overtime than their base salaries. The details of tonight's report leaving community members infuriated.
My reaction was I am devastated. I am devastated that this woman came into our town and spent all of our tax money. We have senior citizens that can't even afford basic necessities.
I suspected it all along. Tiffany needs to be locked up. She needs to be made an example out of, that she cannot go around using our money and spending it however she wants to spend it, like the job come with a cash register.
And we are told this is just the tip of the iceberg. More reports are expected to come as Lightfoot and her team continue to investigate and look into more alleged misuse of funds, including 2 separate trips to Las Vegas. Henyard did not return our request for comment tonight.
Since the day that I announced my candidacy, I set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. I'm here today because I found such a leader.
Yeah, that running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. The official announcement coming after weeks of speculation. The two hit the ground running, first appearing at a rally in Philadelphia together before heading off on a 7-state campaign tour over the next week. Our political reporter Paris Schutz with more on what it all means moving forward.
Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz walked on stage with Democratic nominee Kamala Harris at a raucous evening rally in Philadelphia, introducing himself to the nation as Harris's running mate.
I couldn't be prouder to be on this ticket and to help Vice President Harris become what we all know is very, very good for us to think about. Next President of the United States of America.
Walz gave a folksy recounting of his upbringing in a rural Nebraska town.
Growing up, I spent the summers working on the family farm. My mom and dad taught us, show generosity towards your neighbors and work for a common good.
Earlier today, another Midwestern governor who was on the short list for the job, J.B. Pritzker, congratulated his colleague before getting back to the business of the state.
Look, he is a kind and decent human being. Tim Walz cares deeply about the work that he does and every person that he interacts with.
Democrats had strong praise for the pick. Longtime strategist Pete Giangreco says it was Walz's compelling life story and his effectiveness as campaign surrogate that put him over the top.
Walz has branded the Republican Party as weird, and it is. You know, he comes across as that, avuncular, uncle, guy you'd want to hang out with.
Vice President Harris touted Walz's progressive record as two-term Minnesota governor, his middle-class upbringing, his service in the Army National Guard, his career as teacher, and record under the Friday Night Lights as high school football coach.
The kind of coach, because he's the kind of person who makes people feel like they belong and then inspires them to dream big. And that's the kind of vice president he will be.
Walz, known for his friendly demeanor, wasted no time in taking on Donald Trump.
Violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
It is a very melancholy day for Taylor Swift fans in Vienna, Austria. All 3 of her shows there are now canceled after authorities arrested 3 people in connection to a terror threat at the venue. 2 local sisters, Erin and Allison McIntosh, traveled to Vienna in hopes of seeing the Eras tour, and they are joining us live. Ladies, first of all, we're just happy that you guys are safe and that everything's okay. So thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Of course. I'm going to jump into this. I'd love to know how you both initially sort of found out what was happening surrounding the concerts and what your initial reaction was.
Yeah, so yesterday was a really long travel day getting here, about like 16 hours. So we were pretty exhausted scrolling on Twitter. That's where we saw like the first accounts of them catching these terrorists. And we were unsure how that would affect the concerts going forward. So there was a bit of a gray area of if they or weren't they going to cancel the concerts, but it was all through social media and then friends, of course, texting us from home.
You know, I obviously... Oh, no, please go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, we ended up getting some phone calls from back home that solidified that all 3 shows were canceled, and definitely an emotional night, but we figured out that, the best steps were taken that needed to be, and you can only deal with this moving forward and being positive.
I think that's the absolute perfect attitude. And in the grand scheme of things, you guys being safe is the most important thing. But you also want to know, all right, am I getting my money back? Have they said anything about refunds to the concert?
Yeah, so last night at about 11 p.m., we got an email from the OE Ticket, which is where we got the tickets direct through the venue. And they had mentioned that they will refund tickets that were bought through them within the next 10 days. But I can't speak to all the people who bought through third parties like StubHub and things like that. So waiting on news there. But I know that if you bought direct through, it should be within about next 10 days, they said.
For sure. Now, I've been lucky enough to have been in Vienna. It's a beautiful city. Obviously, your plans have changed a lot. Are you planning on staying there and making the most of it, or are you guys just going to turn around and come back? Because like you said, that's a long flight.
It is.
Yeah. No, we definitely want to make the most of it. So we're going to see bits of Vienna that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. Go see like the countryside would be great. No, we're definitely not going home after this. Of course, this is so devastating and really scary, but from other people we know here, everyone's kind of pivoting their plans and really trying to make the most of this really intense situation.
Yeah, we've seen lots and lots of other Swifties through the streets who all seem to be pivoting and making other plans as well. So it seems that everyone's going to stick around and try to figure out something else to do.
I love that. I love that you guys are making the most of it. So according to Taylor Swift's camp, her shows in London are still moving forward and still going to happen. And she has a few dates here in the States before the tour wraps up. Are you guys planning on seeing her another time?
Yeah, definitely would love to see the London shows. That I know those are next weekend, but we can make it work with travel plans. We're going to try to get over there, but if not, definitely we'll try to prioritize seeing her in the States if we can get our hands on some tickets.
Tickets are so hard to get.
Yeah.
Just tell them who you are. Just lead with that. Yeah. Just tell them who you are and you'll get it. We'll see if we can talk to them. We'll see what we can do. Erin and Allison McIntosh joining us live from Vienna. Ladies, we're very happy that you're safe. We want you to get home safe. Enjoy the rest of your time there, and we'll see you when you get back.
A woman is dead after going into a restricted area of O'Hare Airport and getting caught in machinery.
This happened this morning in Terminal 5, and that is where we find Elizabeth Matthews live with what we know tonight. Elizabeth.
Yeah, guys, and what we don't know tonight is if this woman was a passenger or not. We also don't know her name yet. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office has identified her, but they're not yet releasing her name until her family has been notified of her death. What we do know is that she slipped through a restricted area and was found dead 5 hours later.
It is scary, yes, very scary that it could happen. I mean, is it a security problem? Evidently.
A tragic death behind the scenes at O'Hare International Airport.
Right now, you have a person down in the baggage room. Yes, opinion someone is stuck in the machinery.
The calls of an unresponsive woman in a baggage handling area quickly became calls of a crime scene.
Yeah, this is now a police matter. All companies on scene are in service. Keep us on the air.
Chicago police say their investigation has uncovered video from 2:30 Thursday morning showing the 57-year-old victim entering an unoccupied, restricted area. Then, 5 hours later, around 7:30 in the morning, an employee discovered the woman. The victim was already dead, her body entangled in equipment.
I mean, you would wonder, like, how that would all happen. How does someone just go in and someone just wind up dead in the matter of 5 hours? What happened back there?
Sources tell us it happened behind the scenes of baggage claim in a handling area where there's a lot of machinery and conveyor belts. It's not highly secure, but also not open to the public.
I'm very shocked that in such a secure place, somebody can die so like tragically.
Chicago police continue to investigate what exactly happened here very early this morning here at O'Hare International Airport. The victim, again, 57-year-old woman. Her autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow.
Want to know Chicago politics? Listen to Paris.
Elections, conventions, corruption. There's a lot to get to.
Paris Schutz, the most trusted name in Chicago politics.
Making sense of the issues that impact all of our lives.
Is on Fox Chicago.
I'm Paris Schutz, and I get to cover politics in the world's most fascinating political city.
Find Paris on air on fox32chicago.com and streaming on Fox Local.
Let's get started.
A new rule is changing the game for airline passengers when it comes to ticket refunds.
Airlines are now required to automatically refund your money when flights are canceled or significantly delayed. In tonight's special Money Saver report, I break down what you need to know about that change.
This new airline requirement is part of the FAA Reauthorization Act signed by President Biden earlier this year.
What you used to get was by default a trip credit. Now you're entitled to a refund, and the refund has to be automatic.
Kevin Brassler with Consumers Checkbook says that refund includes things like taxes and if you paid for extras like seat selection.
This is a big benefit, and it really does improve things in terms of it eliminates a lot of confusion about what happens when you're entitled to a refund.
At the end of the day, that's money that belongs to consumers, and if they paid it for a service that the airlines didn't provide them, then they need to provide a refund.
John Breo is with the National Consumers League, a nonprofit consumers advocacy organization. He says the change is specifically for flights originating in the U.S. and notes that rules clearly define how long of a delay will trigger a refund.
A significantly delayed flight means a flight where the departure or arrival time is more than 3 hours domestically or 6 hours internationally. In addition to that, if the flight gets canceled, meaning the airline scheduled it, but then ended up not flying that flight, then you're also entitled to a full refund if you choose not to be rebooked or take a voucher.
He says the refunds will be given in the same way you paid and that you should see the refund in a timely manner.
For airlines, and this also applies to both airlines as well as travel agents and online travel agents, the prompt refund needs to be within 7 business days if the passenger paid by credit card, and within 20 days if passenger paid by cash or check.
An important note, if you do decide to cancel your trip based on a delay, make sure to notify your airline of your plans.
Don't just no show, right? Make sure you tell the airline, I'm canceling my trip here. And the reason is if you no-show, different rules might apply.
Also changing for families, passengers traveling with small children can no longer be required to pay a fee to sit with their kids.
If they want to sit together with their small children, you have to somehow accommodate them without charging them a fee for the privilege of sitting next to their toddler. I've seen seats on international flights that are $95 or more. I've seen seats on domestic flights that are $35 or more.
Ultimately, the consumer advocates we spoke with say the change is about making sure your money is back with you and not left in potentially expiring travel credits.
Now airlines have to do what any other business does, and that is if we're owed a refund, to give us an actual refund.
Isn't it great? The new rules are expected to go into place sometime this fall, meaning they should apply once that holiday travel season starts. You can learn more on the Department of Transportation's website if you have any questions about how that refund system works.
It was a warm and sunny August day, much like this one, when Chicago's Little Lady on an architectural tour passed underneath the Kinsey Street Bridge. What happened next? Here's my report from 20 years ago.
We have talked to the bus driver.
Chicago police today showed a surveillance photo of a bus carrying members of the Dave Matthews entourage to a concert in Wisconsin earlier this month as it crossed the Kinsey Street Bridge and allegedly dumped its septic tank on more than 100 passengers aboard the Chicago's Little Lady tour boat passing underneath.
It was pretty disgusting. I don't know if I could even describe to you how disgusting it was.
20 years later, the Dave Matthews bus dump has become an execrable excerpt in a city flush with history. Today, the exact spot of the slurry slam is marked by a sticker on the bridge, and for a time, an actual plaque provided by Riot Fest.
Well, of course, our initial reaction was shock and horror for the people that were on the boat and how terrible that was.
Margaret Frisbee runs Friends of the Chicago River, which received a $50,000 donation from the Dave Matthews Band after the sickening soaking, part of a $200,000 settlement. But more important, Frisbee says, is that it brought new attention to the goal of restoring the river.
Like a shot in the arm to wake people up that you cannot treat our natural resources this way, and that in this unfortunate incident, people were hit. But what it tells you, if one bus driver was pulling a lever like that, other people were doing it too.
That driver pleaded guilty to reckless conduct and was sentenced to community service and a fine. Now tomorrow, this sordid story will be celebrated with a dance party at the Hideout. They're calling it Don't Drink the Water. Don't bother trying to get tickets. It's already sold out.
This was a highly coordinated heist. The thieves having full knowledge of how to get inside of the mall that you see behind me. We're told that they dressed as construction workers incognito, even wearing hard hats. Once inside, they broke through the walls. It got inside of this jewelry store, and after that, took more than $1 million worth of jewelry.
These are trained professionals. These are not people that planned overnight.
They cut a hole in the wall, creating an entry point. Jewelry display cases unshattered, but everything, and I mean everything, gold and diamonds, the owner saying $1.5 million in inventory swiped.
It didn't happen during the mall hours, it happened after mall hours. They need to check people's ID, who's coming in, who's coming out. Our whole store is equipped. Anything that you can imagine, we had in that store.
All of it taking place right here at Marquise Jewelers, located in Woodfield Mall. Police say the thieves cut through drywall from a neighboring Sbarro pizza restaurant. They even covered surveillance cameras to avoid being recorded. But I must ask you, as somebody that you say they've been watching your store, could this have been an inside job?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. This is someone that had interest in our jewelry.
The owners have been in business 13 years and have had multiple snatch and grabs, with the thieves never being caught. This time, they say they cannot recover. What has Woodfield management said to you?
They're piecing the puzzles. That's all we're getting at.
Is that sufficient?
I want more. I want more.
And detectives right now are still combing through that surveillance video. We're told there are at least 5 to 6 suspects that they're looking for, described as African American and Latino. We reached out to Woodfield Mall to get comment on the story. We have not yet heard back. Again, authorities are still investigating this crime.
A grassroots effort to keep kids from owning their own cell phones too early in life has just hit a major milestone. The Wait Until 8th campaign recently marked 60,000 pledges from parents nationwide, And joining me this morning to tell us about this campaign is local organizer Mark Suhu from North Suburban Wilmette. Mark, good morning. Thanks for being on the program. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Back to school is such a critical time for this.
It is. There's probably a lot of kids being like, hey, when I go back to my next grade, I want to have that cell phone. Okay, so I want to ask you this. What stage in parenthood are you seeing most parents take this pledge?
Well, it's really important for you to think about it. It's actually sooner than you would think. So as kids start going back to school, you can take the pledge as soon as you have a rising kindergartner. And it's shocking how early some kids start to see these questions start to come up. And a lot of parents good-naturedly think, well, I need to be able to stay in touch, my child's going to school, things like that. But the sooner that you start thinking about it as a parent, the less pressure there's going to be on you down the road.
Absolutely. Okay, let me talk more about this milestone, 60,000 signatures. How long did it take to get to that milestone, and is this thing picking up steam?
Absolutely, it's picking up steam. I mean, even in our town of Wilmette, we've seen a 5x increase over the past year, especially since Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, came out in March. A lot of really sobering statistics about the negative mental health impacts of smartphones on kids. And I think more parents are seeing that there's a collective action problem that needs a collective action solution.
Okay, and so the solution here is basically parents take this pledge to wait till 8th grade to get their kids a cell phone. Once they take the pledge, what happens after that?
Yeah, the pledge is very simple. It's to wait until at least the end of 8th grade to get your child a smartphone. And after that, once 10 parents have signed in your kid's school or grade, they have an opportunity to connect with one another. And I think that's a really important part of the pledge is the number one thing we hear from people is, I don't want my child to be left out. But we do want them to be left out of bullying. We want them to be left out of the negative body issues, and we want them to be left out of the negative mental health impacts of smartphones on our kids. And so that's where joining together with the pledge has such power.
Absolutely. Okay, so talk about why 8th grade as opposed to later or earlier. Why is 8th the sweet spot?
Yeah, it's the end of 8th grade, and so we think as they mature into high school, that's really important. I think all the studies show that as children are in elementary school or middle school, that's a really critical time for their development and a really critical time for a lot of the things that you and I might remember from our own childhoods. That's only accelerated with social media and smartphones. And that's why it's really important that we delay as long as possible.
How do parents sign up? If they want to get on this, if their kid is clamoring to get a cell phone and they're in 7th grade and they want, hey, this gives us, as parents, this gives us the language to say, hey, no, how do parents sign up?
It's really simple. Go to waituntil8th.org. You put in your child's school and grade level, and you'll be connected once 10 other parents sign the pledge. And it's very, very simple to do at waituntil8th.org. There's also lots of great smartphone alternatives. This is just for smartphones only. So you can still find ways to get your kid a smartwatch, a flip phone, other devices that can still get in touch with your child and solve a lot of the needs without a smartphone.
Just calling and texting, right? Those basic things.
Even something as simple as an AirTag allows you to track your child's location.
Absolutely.
Which is what many parents solve for with a smartphone.
Okay.
So we encourage you to think about it at waituntil8th.org.
We are out of time, but I want to let you and everyone know I signed the pledge this morning.
Thank you so much.
For my son Theo. I signed it this morning.
Great.
What is your advice for me in terms of next steps, getting the word out to other parents?
I think the next thing to do is text 5 of your friends. And I think you'll be really surprised at how many parents say, boy, I thought I was the only one. And the more that you start to see this momentum building, I think you'll find that a lot of your friends will be interested in joining the pledge with you, which gives you all the more power for you and for your child.
I love it. Mark, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much
for having me.
Really
appreciate it as a parent. Awesome. Mark Suhu, everybody. And again, the website is waituntil8th with the number 8, waituntil8th.org to sign up.
Well, Mayor Brandon Johnson called it one exciting day for the city of Chicago. And Vice Mayor and Alderman Walter Burnett said that he first set his sights on a Damon Green Line stop back in 2004, calling it an issue of social justice.
How you going to give people a demand that you have to have a job and you don't have access to public transportation? That's just not right. So, for me, this is something that we've been advocating for. We started with, this has been for three administrations.
At today's ribbon-cutting ceremony, a lot of fanfare today as the $80 million Green Line is open for business, a train line that fills a crucial gap between California and Ashland Avenues, providing transportation not only for West Side residents, some in public housing, but also for Blackhawks fans headed to the game and the thousands of attendees of the upcoming Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Vice Mayor Burnett said he's worked hard to get the Green Line station at California and Morgan Streets, and thanked Mayor Johnson for getting the Damon stop to the finish line.
This region was neglected and ignored, but this station that is an $80 million investment is fully accessible, stunningly modern, is beautified by artwork that reflects the soul of this community. And with the opening of this station, we take another step in our city's journey to reverse the historic disinvestment of this community. Accessible, reliable, affordable public transit is how we connect the people on the near West Side to opportunities beyond their neighborhoods.
There were also a lot of thanks to everybody from all of the city departments to the design team and the construction crew that made this a reality. Mayor Johnson also saying that he's going to keep it up until all the people in the city of Chicago have accessible, reliable transportation.
Apex predators collide when the Bears battle the Bengals. Coverage starts 11:30 a.m. on Fox 32, the home of the Bears. Stream the game online and on Fox Local.
Jonathan Owens is back at Bears practice. He was gone last week for a good reason, because he, of course, was in Paris to cheer on his wife, Simone Biles. Take a listen to what he said about that experience.
Overjoyed for her, all of her accomplishments that she's made, and just being a face for, the gymnastics, man. And, she became the most decorated American gymnast ever. So that was just amazing that I was able to be there and witness that for her. When she did decide to come back, she accomplished everything that she set her mind to. And just being able to witness every day the training you go through, I'm just so happy and proud for her. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked a football question. Yes, she is super excited to be an NFL wife. That's one of her favorite things to do. So she loves to just be able to be in the stands and just watch the game and know that this is something that I love to do. And it's not all about her in that moment, and she loves that people just get to watch the football game.
Italian beef, the authentic Chicago sandwich.
A lot of beef, I love it.
Sweet bell peppers.
Wow, look at that. Ta-da!
Whether it's dry, dipped, fully dunked, or as they say, baptized, it all started in the Windy City.
How beautiful is that?
Ask any Chicagoan where they can find the best Italian beef, and you're going to get a variety of passionate answers. But there's one Chicago family that's been doing it for more than 40 years.
There's Joe, Carlo, John, Jimmy, and Don. And if you say those 5 names, you hit everybody.
Meet the Bonavolontos. You likely know them as Bona Beef.
This is truly about family, isn't it?
You may have heard earlier, but it was always my dad's dream to be in business with his sons. 43 years later, not only is he in business with his sons, but his 19 grandchildren.
Dad is Joe Bonavolonto. He and his wife Peggy started Bona Beef in 1981 after taking out a second mortgage on their home. And Joe Sr. actually dug the foundation of their very first restaurant in Berwyn. The goal was to have the family work together, so the 5 brothers minus their sister became the names and faces of Bona Beef, and they're still slicing up the recipe Dad and Mom perfected decades ago.
We use a top sirloin, and the top sirloin is the most flavorful piece of meat. We cook and slice about 5 million pounds of beef a year.
This plant in Bedford Park is where everything is made and packaged. Ask them the secret to their success and they'll tell you it's all about the gravy made from the beef drippings, released when the meat is slow roasted to perfection.
They're so passionate about this Italian beef that we kid around. We say that them two have beef gravy running through their veins and not blood. So our Italian beef goes through a process. It takes about 6 hours to cook.
It's packaged and sold to retail and restaurants. But over the years, the company has grown with 36 restaurants that offer a lot more than Italian beef. And 3 generations of family members are now involved.
It's really the passion that we have and the family the 3 generations. It's a testament to our mother and father, how we were raised.
Italian beef in Chicago has a great history. It's said to date back to the early 1900s when Italian Americans considered it an inexpensive food designed to feed as many people as possible. It has become a Chicago staple, but has seen a substantial rise in popularity after the release of the TV show The Bear.
25 pounds? No, I ordered 200.
That's increased the sales of Italian beef, and the Bona Beef family is feeling the impact.
Our online business has been booming, and that's where we're getting a lot of people wanting to do franchises in other states right now. So we've been a beneficiary of the show.
And they've also benefited from their commitment to family. It was their family values that resulted in a beautiful marriage only possible here in Chicago. A collaboration with another Chicago staple, the original Rainbow Cone. Now, you can find several Bona locations with a rainbow cone attached.
It's your own personal rainbow cone. Enjoy. You're welcome.
I was looking for a company that could take this over, honor the legacy, but have a lot of young people.
Lynn Sapp's grandfather started Original Rainbow Cone 98 years ago at a small shack on the city's south side. It's the famous Chicago ice cream with 5 flavors that are sliced, not scooped. Lynn is a third-generation owner who was looking for a way to continue her family's legacy for another 100 years.
They are just so pleasant to deal with, and they have the same principles that I do, and they do it right. And they're going to guard the cone, I call it.
That collaboration has now expanded Rainbow Cone to several area locations and across the country. You can't get more Chicago than the original Rainbow Cone and Bona Beef. So after a day of learning what makes Bona Beef's recipe for success, we could only toast in one way.
Italian beef toast. Italian beef for everyone.
Cheers.
Dig in.
Cheers.
After starting the season 3-22 and losing 21 straight games, the White Sox finally dismissed Pedro Grifol this morning. Grady Sizemore will take over as the interim manager for the remaining 45 games, but the change did not stop there. Getz also fired bench coach Charlie Montoyo, third base coach Eddie Rodriguez, and assistant hitting coach Mike Tosar. It's been a historically bad season for the Southsiders, who own a 28-89 record right now and are on pace to break the 1962 Mets for the Major League's worst record of the modern era. The change was very much needed, and GM Chris Getz ready to usher in a new era.
We expect better. We need better. And so that certainly, motivated us to make this change. I reflect back into how we went into the All-Star break and then came out of the All-Star break in hopes that it would be a reset for players and staff, and was disappointed how they responded after the break and motivated us to make this decision.
Along with empty beer cans, festival bracelets, and a whole lot of body glitter, crews are also finding cell phones, credit cards, and car keys. Now, some festival goers tell us they didn't realize their wallets were gone until they went to buy something at the festival. Others unaware until today. Like last year, a lost and found booth was set up at the Hilton Chicago, but this year staff members say they were actually left with about half the amount of inventory. As cleanup crews work around the clock to break down stages, fencing, and reopen streets, many Lala wristband holders are finding themselves right back here today.
Obviously, I'm here because I lost my wallet. It slipped out while I was on one of the backstage golf carts, and thankfully someone found it. I was pretty happy. I wasn't worried about the cards, but I did have a decent amount of cash in there, and thankfully it's all there too. So, pretty lucky. That doesn't happen too often, especially at festivals.
The lost and found booth is now closed for the day, but unclaimed items will remain posted online for 30 days, and festival goers can check that out, claim their items, and get them shipped directly to them.
Chicago residents got their chance to sound off on new renderings of the massive redefined DuSable Lakeshore Drive project at a community meeting that took place this evening in Truman College.
The estimated $3.4 billion project would rebuild the 22 bridges and 12 junctions on the North Drive from Grand to Hollywood.
We as a city have to improve our infrastructure, repair our aging infrastructure, and also do shoreline protection.
The latest designs feature more green space, dedicated bus lanes on some exit ramps, and a possible reduction in lanes north of Irving Park to reduce car traffic.
Improve transit, better access to the lake and the better park experience, also making it safer.
Chicago and Illinois transportation officials unveiled the final conceptual designs this evening. Chicago residents got their chance to provide some feedback.
The downtown is a disaster in terms of red light stopping, which is insane, but that's not the history. So getting rid of the Chicago Avenue interfaces where you have to have red lights that stop traffic, I think that's the biggest one. And the curve, which they look to be straightening out.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this Lakeland highway's got to go.
Outside, a handful of state representatives and older people joined bike and transit activists, some of whom are calling on the city and state to get rid of the drive altogether in favor of transit and green space. At the very least, says 49th Ward Alderwoman Maria Haddon, public officials should put the brakes on the project for now.
We know that we need to see active transportation prioritized in a plan for the future of DuSable Lakeshore Drive. We need to see bus rapid transit lanes at minimum, right? At minimum.
Commissioner Carney says he wants to get shovels in the ground ASAP, but there are many more steps to go, including securing funding. $3.4 billion. It'll have to come from a mix of state and federal sources.
Discover Chicago's hidden gems and untold tales.
If you look up, odds are you're seeing our work.
They have such an intense and fierce look when they swoop down to grab a fish.
3, 2, 1, go!
Fox 32's photographers share the stories they've captured with you.
Fountain jet shoots up about 150 feet. Our designers, the sky is their canvas.
See Chicago through their unique lens. Streaming now at Fox 32 on Fox Local. Download Fox Local on these streaming platforms and start watching.
Unless you want to talk about you, who you are, then I'm fascinated. I'm in. But you don't want to do that, do you, sport? You're terrified of what you might say. Your move, Chief.
Well, nearly 30 years ago, if you can believe it, an unknown actor named Matt Damon starred alongside comedy legend Robin Williams in a movie called Good Will Hunting. And Jake joined Matt in Boston, just steps away from where they filmed that iconic scene.
Yeah, and it's really one of my favorite scenes of all time. So Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, they star in a new Apple TV Plus action comedy called The Instigators. We're going to talk about that coming up during Fox 32 News at noon. But where we filmed our interview was just a couple of blocks from where he and Robin sat on that bench we just showed you and filmed that incredible scene from Good Will Hunting. It is one of my favorite movie moments of all time. I even woke up the morning of the interview and walked down there and had my coffee. So since we were just a few blocks away, I wanted to hear his stories and his memories of filming that scene. And he told me an amazing tale that could result in a pretty incredible statue. Just a couple of blocks away is the filming of one of my favorite scenes of all time. So I woke up this morning and walked over to the bench. Wow. And I'd love to know what you remember about shooting that scene that day, because
I remember everything about it. I mean, Robin was like off book in pre-production, which was nuts because that monologue was like 2 pages long. And I don't say anything in that scene, just at the very top, and then he goes into that thing. And I remember rehearsing it with him, and I was off book because we wrote it, but he just put his script down. And Ben and I kind of looked at each other like, this is going to be amazing. So when we shot it, I just remember him, he was so locked in, and he didn't require a lot of takes. Robin always liked to do more. And so he probably did it 7 or 8 times, but it was just so good. It was like, so I do remember that day really, really well.
Did you have that bench in mind?
No, Gus.
Gus found.
I mean, we knew we were sitting in the park in the Commons, but we didn't know. I mean, Gus, found. There's a line about the swan boats, so we needed the swan boats at the top, so we knew we were sitting on looking at the water. But
someone wrote on the bench, "Your move, Chief." Your move, Chief.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So here's a thing. Here's a quick thing. I didn't know if I told you this. We just, I don't know if it'll happen, but I really hope it does. Someone proposed to us, an artist, to do a bronze statue of Robin and permanently put it there.
Oh, cool.
And the idea being that if you feel alone, or you can go sit next to him.
Oh, that's nice.
Which I think is the coolest idea. It would be like the most beautiful installation and like such a tribute to that guy who I think would have loved that. So Anyway, I just heard about this like a month ago. But
I just got chills.
I know, me too. When I heard about it, I really hope it comes to pass. I hope they let this artist do it, because it would be pretty cool.
Yes, it's another beautiful win with Women Wednesday, and I got to tell you, I got so excited when I found out about the girl power behind this new project here in Bronzeville. So I want to introduce you to our double dose of girl power today. I have the founder of the Southside Sanctuary, Cecilia, and also the architect behind it as well. Cecilia, tell me about growing this to what it is now.
Absolutely. It's been a process, and it's been a community process. I think the story starts with Alderman Dow. Alderman Pat Dow has fought for the Bronzeville community for years, and so we're just following in the footsteps and passing it on. So we've constructed our team. Our construction manager was a young woman named Tennille Grant. Incredible job. Ann's team also supported by a lot of female architects on their team as well. And then also Polished Pebbles. We've mentored about 75 young women through the construction process. They got to meet Sierra Boatwright, our incredible commissioner. They got to meet Kenya Merritt, who is our deputy mayor. And so throughout that process, we're hoping to continue on that passion of women in construction and women in architecture and women in city planning. It's an important role, and it's an important way that we can shape our own communities.
It certainly is, and this is not a first for you in shaping the community. You're also the co-founder, co-owner of Bronzeville Winery. So Bronzeville is special to you. Tell me what last night meant to you to see this new addition.
You know, I think to see this space, when we design it, we don't often think about what it looks like with the people inside of it. And I think something that we miss in the drawings and the renderings and the architectural drawings is the love that you feel and what it feels like when a community comes together filled with joy. And when your space can bring joy to the community, that's when your work is complete. And so yesterday, I think we saw a few hundred people in attendance at our ribbon cutting. We had news outlets from all over the city. And I think that does a lot to express to a community that we are important, we are worthy, we are exciting, and to be that Bronzeville is a destination, a world-class destination, and visitors should come from outside to come and go to our local businesses like Peaches or jump on the Green Line train, which is just steps away. So, and then I think more so, with all the continued programming, you know, for us to be able to express that to our community, that we'll have farmers markets and music in the park. All of those are things that are really important, and we were able to express that yesterday during our ribbon cutting.
Yeah, and you were able to add in those things. What is the most special feature to you?
I think for us, the green space is what's most important. We heard from Cecilia that open space and green space would be really important to the community. So you see everywhere there's trees, there's plantings, and there's also invisible features like stormwater management and lighting. That's going to make this a really welcoming space that's also inclusive to everyone. We're really excited about that.
Ladies, great work, great teamwork. I love to see this. You're also passing it along to the next generation of women who will do great things in this area. It's another beautiful day here in Bronzeville and another great win with Women Wednesday, seeing how our women in this area are doing wonderful things to make sure that communities thrive.
They aren't just the king of the jungle, they are the kings here at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. We are talking about the Lion Brothers, and I'm here with President and CEO of the zoo, Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, tell us about these two.
Aren't they the best? So Brutus and Titus are two adult male lions. They are 8 years old. They came here in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and have settled in just beautifully here at the zoo. And they're just such amazing animals. I just love looking at them.
Now, if you look closely, you can tell them apart, but you have to look very closely.
Yes, so little subtleties in the length of their mane and the coloration around that helps to distinguish them. So our animal care staff can tell them apart incredibly quickly just at a glance because they have such a close relationship and spend so much time working with them every day.
And speaking of so much time doing something, they spend like 20 some hours a day sleeping.
They spend a lot of time doing nothing. That's exactly
like
right.
House cats.
Yeah, they've got a wonderful life. They spend 20 plus hours a day just snoozing. In the wild, they would those periods of sleep are interspersed with periods of play and then periods of active hunting. They can take down just about any animal in Africa. They definitely are the top tier predator in that regard, but they can eat about 70 pounds of food at one time too, is the other thing that I think is so incredible. So when they take down those large prey items, they can eat just a huge amount of the meat at one setting.
What do you feed them here at Brookfield Zoo Chicago?
So they get a variety of different meat products here at the zoo. So what they've got right now are some, it look like some rib bones that they're chewing on, and we try and give a lot of that natural foods type of item that really keeps them active, keeps them chewing, mimics what they would be doing in the wild, provides good dental care in terms of it being abrasive on their teeth, that sort of thing.
What I loved about this was the females are usually the ones that go out and get the food, but the males do allow the cubs to eat first.
That's right, yeah. So the females do a lot of the hunting in a lion pride, and the males kind of have the right to eat first, but they a lot of times let the cubs be the first ones in there to eat.
And oftentimes you can't tell the males from the females in different species, but you certainly can with the lions.
Yeah, so very easy with lions. The males have those big manes. They're much larger, heavier, stockier animals, and the females are much more kind of graceful and almost delicate looking without that mane, but incredibly fierce nonetheless.
Well, they are certainly a favorite here at Brookfield Zoo Chicago, and if you don't see them, you'll hear them because their roars can go about 5 miles. So.
Yeah. So people in the neighborhoods, you know, that are around the zoo can hear the lions roaring at night. They do a lot of just kind of late afternoon, early evening roaring that I can hear through the wall in my office. So just incredible animals.
Come see them out here at Brookfield Zoo Chicago.
There is no place in the world that is more thrilling than sororities and fraternities.
911, what is the emergency?
But you don't know what actually goes on behind closed doors. It's a lot of humiliation.
Greek life has a tradition of secrecy.
This is not a place where there'll be honor.
A new A&E series exposes the potential dangers of Greek life on college campuses. It's called Houses of Horror, Secrets of College Greek Life. It features firsthand accounts of how the system can create an environment where nefarious activity, from drug and alcohol abuse to sexual assault, is sometimes able to thrive. Danny Santulli was a student at the University of Missouri who was involved in a dangerous hazing event that left him unable to walk, talk, or see, and his story is being featured in this docu-series. And this morning, Danny's parents, Tom and Mary Pat, are joining us. Thank you both for being on the program. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mary Pat, I want to start with you. For viewers here in Chicago, this all unfolded at Mizzou. What do you want our viewers to know this morning about your son, Danny, and his story?
Well, we want people to know that, you know, hazing is real. It's going on all college campuses. And we just want, to create more awareness. And since this is a good time where parents are sending their kids off to college, they all need to be educated. Talk to your kids, make sure it's, the right choice for them, the right place to be. But just have those open lines of communication, because we felt that we could never really communicate with him prior to him joining this fraternity.
And after he joined, it was a dangerous level of alcohol consumption that led to these health conditions. Now, Tom, can you tell our viewers why you decided to tell his story in this docu-series?
Well, the time is just perfect, right? Kids are getting ready to go back to school here later in August. And it's a big problem. And I think a lot of people out there don't realize how much of a problem this is across the country. We've met so many families that lost sons due to hazing events. And it's just critical that you keep the lines of communication open between your son, and of course yourself as being a parent, but also along with the university too. There has to be that communication going all the time. Otherwise, bad things can happen.
Such an important cautionary tale. Mary Pat and Tom, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time and you guys sharing your story. Again, House of Horror, Secrets of College Greek Life. It premieres August 12th at 8 p.m. on A&E. Thank you to you both.
A tough day for the offense and Caleb Williams, who struggled to connect with his receivers downfield, despite many of the defensive starters being out. Offensive coordinator Shane Waldron not too concerned, saying he's seeing the daily improvement from Williams and his offense, and the defense is taking notice too.
He's so competitive, he cares so much about being great, and he puts in the hard work. So it's not a surprise that each day he gets a little bit better.
His mobility in the pocket, trying to contain him. He makes his reads.
The run game has looked really solid, just with all the, with all the movement and things that we do. I think they've done a good job of handling that, and there's just dynamic players everywhere.
The defensive success has been a note all camp. Players saying it's a product of playing in the same system for multiple years.
Having comfort with the guys up front and kind of understanding of what we're doing, but man, the way that they're playing with just tenacity.
I know what it's supposed to look like. I know where I'm supposed to be when I finish a place.
And just like the rest of us, following the debut episode of Hard Knocks, the players had thoughts of their own.
I thought the conversation between Coach Flus and Nick Saban was very cool to listen to. Guys, I admire. I wish I could get an hour of that conversation.
I did know that Theo was going to be on there, so I saw the highlight of that just because I had to see the reactions. One of the more wild things that I've seen in my time in the NFL, but that's what it's about.
Oh my God, Don and Scott, I wish you all could have been here inside of this restaurant. At one point, guys, I believe the building even shook through each inning as some families were on the edge of their seat. A lot of kids were jumping, screaming. I even saw a few kids even crying when they learned and even realized that the Devils are not just state champions now regional champions headed to the World Series. That was a roaring applause and excitement. Hinsdale tying the game at the bottom of the sixth inning, eventually beating Indiana in the seventh. Fuller House along East 1st Street here in Hinsdale hosting the official watch party, packed with Little League players and their families all rooting on the Devils. The 12U athletes have been playing together since they were 5 years old. And listen to this, no professional training at all. Families tell me the kids' fathers are their coaches. The success has brought the community together. The team described as resilient with grit. Here's more from Little League players and their families on why this is such an incredible time for them.
Kids work so hard. It's so much fun to see them doing so well. And everybody's just amazed how far they've gone along. And we grew up with these kids.
It's really nice because you get to see them, and everybody else here is on Hinsdale's team, and it's just fun being in a room with everybody else who's in your town and rooting for the same team.
What's been the best thing about this experience for you?
Probably the home runs.
Yeah. You tell me what's exciting about you all for this.
It's just so beautiful how Illinois has been rocking it tonight. It's really nice how they're starting to win.
The team will now advance to the World Series, the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. So happy for them.
This has been your Fox 32 Week in Review. See you around next week.